All right, I clicked on go live. Let me know, Ellie, if you see us on uh, YouTube. And I just noticed that on Facebook we just went live. Just let me make sure I
Yeah,
mute.
we're definitely live on YouTube.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so we're live in three places: YouTube, Atheist Republic YouTube channel, which the comments from there shows up on the screen. Then we have the Atheist Republic Facebook page and Atheist Republic's private Facebook group. The comments from Facebook is not going to show up on the screen, but Ali is going to keep an eye on them. So today we're going to be talking about the latest news on religion, atheism, secularism, politics, anything that the Atheist Republic community is interested in. I have Ali here. Hi, Ali.
Hi.
All right. Ali, as I mentioned, is going to keep an eye on the live chat. The YouTube live chat, and I mentioned it's going to show up on the screen. Also, Ali, if anybody uses the super chat on YouTube, let us know so that we could give them a shout out.
Sure will.
And guys, if you like what we're doing here, if you like to get this weekly news summaries, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to Atheist Republic on YouTube, and I actually have an announcement as well, because the Atheist. Remember, we said this show comes in on Facebook and on YouTube, and we have the podcast version of it as well. Just yesterday, I think we released our third podcast. So Atheist Republic now has 3 podcasts. It's called Atheist Republic News, Atheist Republic Discussions, and Atheist Republic Voicemails. So if you go to your podcast app and search for Atheist Republic, you should see all 3 of them showing up. The reason why we didn't put it all under one podcast is that because some people might be interested in the news but not the discussion. Some people want to be hearing voicemails from atheists around the world, but they're not interested in hearing the news. Some people want to hear debate. So there's 3 different shows, right? The discussions is the debates that we usually have. This is what you're seeing here is going to be the audio version of it is going to be the under Atheist Republic news. I also want to mention that we last week we got three new patrons, Adrian, Thomas, and Mike. Became our patrons for Atheist Republic. So thank you so much for that. We actually do need your support. Our expenses are growing to keep the website up, to keep paying our staff, for a whole bunch of other stuff, the software that we use. So, thank you so much for donating. We do actually, even if it's just $1, it does help. We do need to rely on small donations. So if you do want to support this show, please go to our Patreon page and become a patron. We would really appreciate that. We do actually
Definitely.
we do need your help if to keep this going. As of right now, our costs are more than the money that we're making in, and we're gonna run out if we can change that, right? All right, so Ali, do you want to mention the first news? Oh, Iran again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So women are taking to the streets of Iran to show support for a woman who was viciously beaten by the morality police. What had happened was a woman went out with a loose headscarf that was a bright color, which they're not supposed to wear. And she was approached by 2 women who were very angry at her headscarf not being worn correctly, and they started physically attacking her. And other women actually joined in. People circled around. Someone took a video of this privately. And by the time they were done with her, she was on the floor. She was crying. She had obviously been in a lot of pain. So women are now going around places where they're not supposed to go around without a head covering, like Tehran and Shiraz, and
Or anywhere in public.
out there.
Anywhere in public.
Anywhere in public,
right.
Yeah, but especially in the cities, like major cities, they're going around without their headscarves, and to protest it. I guess I wonder if the reasoning behind that is if enough women do that, they can't beat them all, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting more and more out of hand for the government. I think they're in panic mode right now because they really can't arrest all of these girls, right? And this is, I mean,
Right.
the video that you're mentioning, I watched it. It was really horrific, right? So, the
Yeah.
morality police lady, she started like slapping this girl for not even for not having hijab, for having loose hijab. And this is very interesting
Right.
because there was a recent fake news that was going out right before the protest that hijab is not mandatory in Iran anymore. But that was such bullshit news, and a lot of people were spreading that. But it's still mandatory. But I mean, there were like even after the protests in Iran, a lot of girls got long prison sentences for not having hijab. But this girl didn't was being arrested not just for not for not having hijab. She was being arrested for having loose hijab, right? So like her hijab wasn't even,
Right.
so that was barbaric. The thing is that what was surprising this time was the reason why the government came in and said that this morality police lady shouldn't have done that. That was excessive, right? And a lot of people are calling. Some people call it, that's weird. That's progress. But a lot of people are calling it bullshit on that because first of all, it was captured on camera. They say these things happen all the time in Iran, right? This one
Yes.
was captured on camera, and the reaction to it in Iran, the anger towards how this girl was being treated was so big in Iran that the government for the first time said, "Oh, this is unusual. This is not what we endorse." But they always endorse that. Like there's so many examples of people being treated like that, right?
Right, and our article actually shows a lot of women walking down the streets with their cameras and filming abuse by different people. I mean, this is a serious problem for these women.
Right. So the videos that you're mentioning, so as a reaction to it, like there was already many women protesting the hijab by taking their hijab off as sort of protest. But when this video came out, now I think there's a huge reaction. Even more girls are doing it, right, as protest. And
Yeah.
their safety in numbers. There's not that much safety, but there's some more. It's harder. It's becoming very difficult for the government to, because they wanna arrest these girls, but they also are afraid of the reaction that they will get, right? But a lot of the reactions
Right.
that you're mentioning in the videos that are coming out is not even from the police, the morality police. It's from just random strangers, right?
Just random people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people telling you why you have a hijab on, and just basically going to the girls and telling them to put their hijab back on. This is against the law here, right?
And one man even slapped a woman across her face
Oh
for not
fuck!
wearing a hijab.
Holy shit!
Yeah. They're just random people
But
coming up to them and treating them this way.
But a lot of liberal Iranians, especially in the West, people that have left Iran, they try to sometimes make it seem like most of Iran is liberal, and as long as you remove the government, everything is going to be okay, right? The whole, but all the Iranian people are pro-West, and that's not the case. Like these recent protests shows that the liberals do, the people that non-religious, not or non-liberal, not conservative people in Iran do have a voice that is being ignored. They are and their voices are louder than ever. But to dismiss the fact that a lot of Iranians think that this law should be the law is also misguided, right? Yes, there's a lot of Iranians that
Yeah.
think that this law is bullshit, or even all religious law are bullshit in Iran, right? And they're fighting against this regime. But we can't dismiss the amount of sympathy that this government also has. And there's a lot of Iranians that do support this government as well. And the thing is that these videos show that when the girls take off their hijab, it's not always the police that is coming to them and reacting to them. A lot of times it's the people that come and
Yes.
take it upon themselves, and the government encourages people to do that as well. There's this thing in Islam called Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, which makes it every Muslim's duty to make the sinning of other Muslims their business, right? So basically, you have religious excuse for meddling in others people's personal lives, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so and so they like when you tell them what is it to you, they why are you, when you're not even the police, why are you telling me what to wear, go mind your own business. They themselves think, no, this is my religious obligation to tell you to put your hijab back on, right? Even if I am not the police. And I watched some of these videos. I think the main line of argument that the people use, the religious people, they use when they see these girls without a hijab and go to them and tell them to put their hijab back on, the main line of argument they use against them is that this is against the law. And every country has its own norms and customs. And this is, and its own laws. And you have to respect this country's law, right? And what I hear the girls shout back at them usually is that this law is wrong, right? You can't just follow a law just because it's a law, right? And
absolutely.
But the thing is, and the religious people in the street that are attacking them disagree with that, right? But the thing is, if I was there, I would tell them that wasn't the Islamic Revolution against the Shah illegal based on the law at the time? I mean, you wouldn't even have an Islamic Republic if the people that did the revolution didn't break the law, right? Your entire government, your entire regime that you're supporting is based on breaking the law of its time, right? I also saw a video of Iran's foreign minister Zarif trying to make excuses for these laws. There was a recent video came out of him where he was talking to an English-speaking audience outside of Iran, and he was saying, "Look, every country has its dress code. You can't you can't just go naked in a McDonald's in the U.S. So that's the norm of this country. This is the norm of our country, right? And these are the traditions of the people, and it should be respected." And a lot of people, that got a huge reaction on social media to him, because a lot of people had a hashtag calling him a liar, and the comparison, bullshit comparison, right? First of all, they tell them that this is not the tradition. If you didn't have the Islam, if it wasn't mandatory, most women wouldn't be wearing it in Iran. And second of all, you're making it seem like first, as if it's just a slap on the wrist, but whereas a lot of these girls are getting long prison sentences, and some of them were beaten in jail. If somebody's naked in the United States, because they're not gonna go to jail for it for 2 or 7 years. And second of all, the laws that you have on women covering themselves is so far beyond asking people not to show their genitalia in the street, right? That is not even close to that, right? Like to even suggest that is ridiculous. And to have such more strict laws for women relative to the men is also ridiculous. And here's the thing: there is no demand. There is no demand in there. We don't have protests in the United States right now, people demanding a change in law for us to be able to show our genitals in the street, right? I mean, if we had that, maybe it would be like, oh, the government is going against the will of the people. But what in Iran, what's happening is that people are demanding something to be changed. But this is a law that even many religious people are against, right? Some religious people that expect that wear the hijab themselves, they say like, I don't want this to be forced on other people, right? So.
Right.
Yeah, so the comparison doesn't make any sense. Is there anything in the life? First of all, did you want to add anything to this?
I did. So I wanted to add that supposedly the two women that marched up there and started hitting her first, supposedly they've been suspended pending an investigation, but they won't identify any of the women in the video. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Right. Do you want to check any of the comments?
We did have the comment that moral policing nowadays in India is beating up unmarried lovers. and it's by fundamentalists. So, I mean, yeah, I know Pakistan has a version also of morality policing. I think that is kind of everywhere. It's just unfair because they do tend to get violent and angry, which, I mean, I don't understand what moral is that, to get violent when you're angry about something. I don't know.
Right, guys. If you, in the live chat, if you're tagging Atheist Republic for us to read something, don't do @AR, do @Atheist Republic so that it gets highlighted for me. Let me see. Actually, there's moral policing nowadays is in India. Oh yeah, you read that one, right? Okay. So should we go to the next one?
Yeah, let's do that. So, Rwandan government closes 6,000 churches and requires a degree for pastors. This was really interesting. So they said that there's a problem with a lot of preachers and pastors putting on church services in places that are actually really dangerous for people.
Right.
I mean, yeah, there was one place where 16 worshipers were killed after a lightning strike hit them, and they didn't have a mandated lightning rod installed. So a lot of the places they have there, the churches, things like that, are outrageously dangerous for crowds of people to be in. So they're requiring building codes on all churches now, which, of course, a lot of people are angry about and protesting, because you should be able to worship the Lord anywhere. But, I mean, it obviously isn't very safe. But also, in addition to this, is that they've said that there have been some corruption among a lot of pastors where they are. So they're not letting just anybody be a pastor anymore. You actually have to go and get a degree in theology before you can become a preacher in Rwanda. So I thought that was outrageously interesting news.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel, but like basically a degree in bullshit. You have to go.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Hogwarts, right? You have to go learn about witchcraft and wizardry. You have to go to the Christianity's version of Hogwarts.
Well, also they say that there's a big problem with them deceiving their congregation with misleading sermons. So a lot of the people who are preaching over there don't even exactly know, what they're supposed to be preaching. They just whatever they want to preach, they do it.
I mean, the preaching Christianity by default is misleading anyways, right? It's just basically they're saying, why are you not doing the official accepted brand of bullshit instead of this new innovative versions of bullshit that we haven't approved, basically? Yeah, get your bullshit in line, basically. That's what they're saying.
Yes, get your bullshit together.
Yeah. All right, should we go to the next one? By the way, should I read the
one?
Okay, no, go ahead.
Yeah, do you want to? I don't. This one is really interesting, and it's got a backstory to it. The Ten Commandments monument went up outside the Arkansas State Capitol again. So for all of you who don't know the history behind this Ten Commandments monument, Arkansas was getting sued by the Satanic Temple, who wanted to put Baphomet outside of the state capitol because they had this Ten Commandments monument, which was clearly advocating for Christianity, and that's against church and state, the Constitution. So they were being sued by them. They were being sued by the Freedom from Religion Foundation for having this monument up there. But what happened was this born-again Christian Jesus freak, decided to ram his car into the Ten Commandment monument, and that stopped all lawsuits, right? If there was nothing to argue about because it no longer existed anymore, no one could sue the state of Arkansas for having this monument up. So this was last year that this happened, and
he's a Christian fundamentalist that drove his car into the Ten Commandments?
He did, yeah.
Why?
He heard voices telling him to do it. I mean, poor guy.
Of course.
Yeah,
as you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go on.
So, Rappert, who is a state official, he began raising a GoFundMe to get money to build a new Ten Commandments monument. And so, kind of on a side note here, he raised more than $85,000, but the monument only cost $25,000, and he's refusing to say where the rest of the money went. But in this new Ten Commandments monument that they just resurrected in front of the Arkansas state capitol, they also put up cement bars so that nobody could drive their car into it again. As you can see, the cement chunks that are around it, no one's going to be able to knock this over again with their car. But now this just paved the way for the Satanic Temple, who has already announced that they are going to be suing yet again. So they're going to be suing. Freedom from Religion Foundation is probably also going to be suing. They're waiting for all of the atheist organizations who want to press a lawsuit to get together so that they can put it into one big lawsuit.
So this is the grounds, and this is what is it? It's a public park, or what is it?
Well, it's government property.
Government property.
Yeah.
So it was
city put up by the government.
Oh, by the government, and it's in what city hall? Like in
it's in front of the state capitol.
Capitol. Okay.
It's mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of people that think that this is not a big deal, let them do it. I always think like, okay, fine, let the Satanic Temple also come in and see what the reaction is from the other side. Because this is what a lot of Christians say. They're like, what's the big deal? This is not hurting anybody. Just let it be, right? And that's always, they change their mind when you say, like, okay, that's fine. Let's Satanic Temple, come here, do your thing, build your monument here, and then you could watch their reactions. All of a sudden, that argument goes out the window, where it doesn't matter, just let them do their thing. It's not hurting anybody. Their hypocrisy is just, But and a lot of people also think that this so that's the Satanic Temple, which most of them are atheists, by the way. They're just the greatest trolls of all time, but the Freedom from Religion Foundation, when they come in and they do this, a lot of atheists sometimes think that they shouldn't because we look like angry atheists that can't even stand a monument. Why can't you just let them have their monument in the public place, right? And the fact that this isn't done by the government in a government-owned place, this is basically saying that the government is Christian, right? This is a statement that the government
they're endorsing that one religion.
Right. I mean, you might have had a point if the government was having a Islamic, a Satanic, a Christian, a Hindu, a voodoo, anything, a temple out there as well. But this is saying this is government. The government here is Christian. And if you don't, here's the thing: you think that if they win this, when you have a red line, and you move back that red line, you have opened the door to constantly moving that red line. You have to stand your ground here, guys, or else religion is going to creep into every part of your life. And don't. Yep. I mean, it already has. You can't give them these wins. It only encourages them. This is
yeah, I know, and that's the thing that I don't understand. It frustrates me so much when people say, "Why are we doing that? It's such a small issue." Attack the issues while they're small. Don't wait for them to become a huge issue, and then where we can't do anything about it. So yes, I encourage everyone, please fight the issues while they're small. Even though I don't even think this is a small issue, I think this is huge. I don't think that we should have any state capital in the United States endorsing a single religion. That is outrageous. So yeah, I don't. Let's read some comments here.
Yeah.
We have on Facebook, Nerman is saying, "Go after Hollywood satanic religious rights, red flag cults." So I think that maybe, Nerman, the Satanic Temple, they're actually atheists.
Yeah.
They're not devil worshippers. They're actually
but
atheists
they still
that use their religion.
They are, but they still freak the shit out of the Christians. Like they whenever they see when in public property they see the statue of a devil, they're like, what the fuck is happening to my country? Like it's so it's beautiful, but
it's gonna be amazing.
I mean, it's good because they don't see how significant this is to other people when they're because when we see Christianity is taking over public life, but then when they see something that they found so scary going in the same area, they start reacting to it. We're like, well, this is how we see Christianity, just even worse than that, because and just because you don't see Christianity like that, the point is that they think that for them it's shocking that we don't see it their way, because for them Christianity is good, right? But once they see how their own reaction to satanic statues, they should maybe think that, for people that don't see Christianity the way you see Christianity, that's exactly what you're doing, right? But the Facebook comment that you read, does somebody think that, what was the suggestion? They were suggesting that this is
to go after the satanic religious rites as well.
Yeah, this is just a made up. It's kind of like the flying spaghetti. These are not. I mean, the satanic, the real Satan worshippers, they don't call themselves. I don't know what they call themselves, but these are not. These people are atheists. They're just trolling religious people, and they're doing it. What they're doing is that they're using this fear Christians have of devil worship, of Satan, to show them that if you want to open the door to religion, you have to open it to everybody. You can, not just your religion. There's a FaceTime. Oh yeah, Judy in the top Facebook comment is saying, every time for the Satanic Temple to install their everybody knows whenever so this, I think that this is the Freedom from Religion Foundation and the Satanic Temple basically are great compliments, right? So the Freedom from Religion Foundation first comes in, and they try to stop them as much as possible, and if they fail, and then they're like, okay, Christians think they won, they just managed to get religion into government area, and then the Satanic Temple moves in and like, I heard it's okay here to have religion in public property, and that's why we're here. So we try to turn that win to a lose for them, because so that they I mean, this is what they do with schools as well, because there was one place I think they won that they managed to get Bibles in school, and then as soon as they did that, the Satanic Temple came in and they passed
with their coloring
books of Satan. And it was the beautiful thing about that, it was that the Christian parents were freaking out, but if you looked at the coloring book, it was so innocent. It had nothing in it.
I honestly, I printed it out for my kids. It was really cute.
So it shows how, yeah. Okay, so Don is saying, fine, let's put up verses from the other religions too. Dozens. We in America are equal opportunity employee. Yeah, so if you have religion, they should put the Quran up there, see how they react.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially in Arkansas, I can imagine.
All right, let's go to the next.
The southern people are scared of anything that's not Christian.
Oh, there's a comment by I don't know how to pronounce it. Soraya? Okay. He's saying, I think having Satanic Temple is just mocking religion by atheists, but there are some people who actually do worship. Yes, there are some people who actually worship their Satan, but they're not associated with the Satanic Temple in the United States. They have their own small groups. They're weird people. And they're very small, I think, compared to the people that are just doing atheists that are doing it for fun and poetic reasons.
Like Casey says, the temple just wants to show what happens when religion gets privileges. I'll have to get an opportunity. So absolutely, that's exactly what it is. They've turned Satanism into an actual, religion that they follow with their tenets and everything else, and so they also push to get their privileges as well.
See, this is why Satanic Temple is a thing between, I think it's between having Islam in government and having the Flying Spaghetti Monster in government, right? Because when the Christians managed to get Islam in Christianity in government, then we were like, okay, fine, here, have Islam in government as well, and that would make them panic. But the thing is that we don't want Islam in government, right? So flying spaghetti monster is a joke religion that we were like, okay, let's have flying spaghetti monster in government. But the thing is that the flying spaghetti monster is so obvious of a joke that the Christians won't mind it. They're like, okay, this is ridiculous. Whatever the fuck is this? That I don't care. So I think the Satanic Temple is basically the perfect in between. It's a made-up religion. It's not going to be dangerous like Islam,
Right.
but they don't see it as a made-up religion, as a joke religion. So you still get the reaction that we want from them. All right. So next, go to the next news.
Okay, the next news. This is really interesting. Last Sunday, 300 French politicians, artists, and academics published an open letter decrying anti-Semitism. So they challenged Muslims in a manifesto to remove verses in the Quran that call for the murder and punishment of Jews, Christians, and disbelievers on the grounds that they're obsolete. So, 300 of these big people are talking about the ex-president, the former prime minister, current actors and singers, philosophers. They all signed this letter saying that, it would be goodwill for the reformist Muslims to remove those. And the reason why this came about is last month, 2 young Muslim men murdered a Holocaust survivor, Mireille Knoll. And another 65-year-old Jewish woman was flung from a third-floor window by a man screaming Allahu Akbar. So it's becoming a huge issue right now in France because a third of France's recorded hate crimes target Jews, and Jews only make up 0.7% of the population. So it's kind of a really big issue right now. They're saying a lot of Muslim groups around France have responded to this letter. They're pretty angry about it, saying that the whataboutism in here, if you look at Christianity, if you look at Judaism, they all have violent verses in their books too. But the problem is it's seemingly, according to statistics in France, a lot of Muslims are acting on the Quran's verses that call for death of Jews and disbelievers, and they're actually acting on those verses, and that is a problem. So, what do you think, Armin? Asking to remove violent verses?
Well, they're not going to remove it. Obviously, they call themselves reformers, but they're just pushing for the same book that is full of horseshit and hate. But I kind of predicted this would happen. But this is that the whole anti-hate speech movement in Europe and other places is going to come for some people are going to use those and come for Islam and hopefully one day for Christianity as well, because I mean it's how like a lot of people, social justice warriors, their tactics is eating themselves, right? Because they keep trying to out social justice warrior each other, and then they keep attacking their own crowd, right? So but I always thought, like, how is this not blowing up? Because a lot of these people also are Islam apologists, right? And they have managed to really make hate speech, trying to convince everybody that hate speech should not be protected under free speech, right? And given that they're Islam apologists, I always thought at some point people are going to use this trend that these people are, responsible for, against Islam itself, right? Because Islam, in the Quran, the verses in there are way beyond offensive relative to what these people label as offensive, right? Right. So I was waiting for this backfire to happen at some point, because once these norms become accepted in, I'm hoping it happens in UK. Like, just recently, Count Dankula just got
8 months in prison, right?
Well, no, 800 pounds. Did I read that right? No, he didn't get a prison sentence, right? So a lot of people saw it as a win, but a lot of people are saying that no, it's not a win because he was found guilty, even if it's just a fine. That sets a really bad precedent, right? But this should be used, because now we have, now that it did set a precedent, it should be used against these laws. People should in the UK should go out there and use these laws against the Quran itself, against anybody that is publicly reading the Quran, anybody that is posting verses of the Quran, any mosque that is teaching the Quran, because based on the same standards, all these mosques should be closed. All these imams should be going to court. Even the most
That's a very good point.
Even the most peaceful and moderates, or the ones that call themselves reformists, they all, based on this standard that the UK is introducing, they should all be going to jail right now, or at least having a court date, because they're teaching verses that is. So when it comes to Count Dakhla, he was arguing that this was a joke. And the court was like, no, you're actually suggesting this is not a joke. You're actually advocating for this kind of hate. But the thing is, when it comes to the imams and the Quran, they don't even have that argument. Do you think they no, we're joking about the Quran is a joke? They don't even have that on their side, right? So people should there should be a campaign, because now you have the law. They have a official precedent for a judge saying this was grossly offensive. Give us here's your court date. Give us £800. So use the same law. Get the crowdfunding. Get some people out there. Hire some lawyers and go after every single mosque and every imam and everybody that posts in UK or anywhere in Europe, posts a Quranic verse or posts take out all the Quran books out. Because based on that same standard, I mean, how could you argue against that? All of that should go out. All of that. I mean, it's right in there. It's actually asking you to kill people based on their beliefs.
Beej is asking a question I don't have the answer for, but it's very relevant to what you just said. Isn't there something anti-Jew in the Friday prayer in every mosque?
Yeah, it's the Fatiha, the first verse, the first surah in the Quran. The last part, Alhamdulillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Let me hold it. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi Yeah, so there are two people out at the very end of the Fatiha where where you are praying to God basically to not for you not to for God to guide you in a path not similar to theirs, right? And a lot of tafsir suggests one of those groups are Christian and one of those groups are the Jews. And it seems consistent with many other ways where Christians and Jews are referred to in the Quran or in Hadith as well. But that's not that big of a deal compared to most of the other hates in the Quran. I mean, there's specifically demands for killing groups of people that the excuse for it is that, it's just for this combatants groups of people at the time. It's not for all non-believers, which is bullshit, but it's fine. If you want to say that, then please change your Quran and clarify that. Right? You could say you change your Quran, right. Put a clarify that, put a verse in there, add a verse to the Quran, because right now it could be a hate crime. And even if you take those verses out, there are still verses that specifically suggest that all of the non-believers are going to be burned in hell. They deserve to be tortured. I mean, imagine if I wrote a book that didn't actually tell you to go kill the Jews, but I told you that Jews deserve to be tortured, right?
Inciting hate.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, based on the standards in the UK, that would still be hate, even if you, because I know a lot of Muslims argue that the verses against the Jews or against the non-believers are not for all the Jews or all non-believers. It was specifically for the people at that battle. But if you actually read it, it doesn't seem like that. It specifically it seems to be suggesting that it's for anybody like these people. And it's interesting that they say that, because most Muslims always suggest that the Quran is supposed to be a guide for all people at all time. But as soon as you point to verses that we find problematic, then a lot of people's excuses is like, oh no, this is for only those people at that time. So it contradicts the whole point of the Quran.
Then it's not perfect.
No, but the thing is that even if they argue that, most Muslims don't argue the fact. Most Muslims don't. I mean, unless the vast majority of Muslims don't argue the fact that the afterlife torture of non-believers is there, right? That only Muslims will make it to heaven, that non-believers in Islam will be tortured forever and ever and ever in hell. And there's a lot of details about the torture and how it's going to happen. Your flesh is going to burn, and then it's going to be reborn and burn again. You're going to have angels smashing your face. You're going to have a molten lead poured in your mouth. So there's a lot of specifics in there. But if you said this about the Jews, for example, in a different book, and said, I'm not saying anybody should do this. I just think if it happens, they deserve it, right? I think that would still be considered hate crime, and based on way beyond hate crime, based on the standards that they've suggested. Harris is bringing up a verse saying that you have to fight people that are not giving the jizya, which is the tax that you pay if you're not a Muslim, which is again. So for example, imagine if that's obviously based on way past the standards that UK or some other European countries have right now. That is considered grossly offensive. So if that's the standard that we have, all of this have to go. And honestly, I don't know how the government is going to stop lawyers from making such an argument, right? Because legally, it should stand. You have a precedent for it right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me see if there's any comments on here. This one has 5 likes. Don't keep the full extent of their idiocy on full... Jason is saying don't remove these verses, keep the full extent of their idiocy on full display. They're not going to remove these verses. In fact, I think these lawsuits will just help bring attention to the fact that these verses exist to some people that don't. It would be great because, a lot of people, it would be very great to actually have a court decide if these are, offensive or not, because a lot of people just read these and they just believe Muslims when they say, oh, no, this means something else, right? This verse that says that you're supposed to beat your wife. Oh, no, it means you should tickle your wife. Okay. But now if you actually bring it to a court of law, now they have to objectively look at these verses and be like, see if these are considered hate crime or not. That would be so beautiful. It's going to be so great to watch. And you're going to get a lot of people now having to look and see how, if people objectively look at these verses, is it a hate crime or not, right? So it's going to be great. Somebody's saying... Moose is saying, Atheist Republic, do we really need to keep exposing the believers? Why not talk to people about a secular humanist worldly viewpoint instead? Aren't you preaching to the... Well, I mean, no, we are constantly reaching new audiences and people that haven't heard these things. And when we talk to preaching to the choir, when we are talking about to our group is our own group, is not the fact that these are hateful, because we know people in our group know these are hateful and these are disgusting. The discussion that we're having to our group is how can we reach more people and convince them of this, right? And I think that having a lawsuit against these verses will expose this to more people. I mean, if you look at our statistics, we are constantly reaching more and more new people that haven't ever considered these things. So yeah, when we're talking about this, Moose, is not the fact that hey atheists that thought Islam that Quran is a book of hate, here's another reason why the Quran is a book of hate. No, the discussion we're having now is how can we get more. Believe it or not, you guys hang out with a whole bunch of other atheist activists. You think these things are obvious. it's not obvious to most people. Even a lot of atheists in UK, for example, think that Quran is a peaceful book and Islam is a peaceful religion. This misconception, unfortunately, is huge. Don't just because sometimes we forget that because we hang out with people that agree with us. So I try to always, if you look at my YouTube subscription, I always try to, and my Reddit and my Twitter, I try to not be in my bubble. Most of the content that I'm subscribed to isn't coming from people that are saying the things I'm saying. It's usually people that are saying the exact opposite. So should I? Is there anything else we should? Is there anything on Facebook we need to read?
Nothing in reference to what we're talking about now.
Okay.
And I'm also keeping an eye on our group, by the way, too. But I don't have anything there.
Fantastic. All right. What is this
one?
If
you want to go into the next one?
Yes. This seems related.
Kind of related.
Kind of related to the last one. Go on. Okay.
Yeah. So the head of Germany's Council of Muslims said that anti-Semitism is sinful and must be tackled. And this came after German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that refugees and other people of Arab origin are bringing a different form of anti-Semitism into the country. And this was said because there have been a rash of attacks on Jewish people in Germany, to which a lot of people are saying are coming from refugees. So this head of the Council of Muslims put out a statement specifically saying anti-Semitism, racism, and hatred are great sins in Islam. Therefore, we will also never tolerate that.
Holy shit! This is basically a more aggressive version of what you just read in France, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. So it is happening. This is amazing.
I mean, here it is. Yeah, he is coming out and saying that they will never tolerate anti-Semitism, racism, or hatred. So he's letting, and he's also taking strides to introduce refugees in Germany to Jewish members of Germany, so they can learn to kind of get along and put aside differences. So.
I was just listening to my a podcast on news and something. I think I was listening to BBC, and I think they mentioned that anti-Semitism is rising in Europe, and they never mentioned anything about refugees or Muslims. Or I wonder if they just on purpose they just mentioned that it's on the rise, and it's because of the rise of Islam in Europe. And they just didn't mention that it's mostly coming from that group of people because BBC is notorious these days for I don't know. I hope that was not the case, but I wonder if they just decided to say, hey, people are hating Jews more than ever before in Europe, and then they just left that part that because of Islam, that part out, which is scary if that's the case. This is what I tell you, I have to have multiple sources of news. But
right.
This is amazing. I mean, how could you? This is so. The reason why this is so great is because Germany is so filled with self-hate because of, their history, right? So they're like anything that even remotely seems like racism, they're like, no, like they hit it with a hammer on the head, right? Even like they're just like, no, you can't even, no, this, can I say no? You can't, can I question? No, right? And a lot of times we tell people that this doesn't work, and now that the right-wingers are coming back in, not just right-wing, like alt-right parties are having a comeback in Germany and becoming more popular than ever. And we're like, look, we told you this doesn't work. We told you this is going to have an opposite reaction, right? But now I think this is going to be so confusing for them on how to deal with it, because they wanted to be like, yes, open borders, everybody in, we're not racist, we're all refugees in, Islam is peaceful, we love Islam and all that. right? But now what's happening is that the one group of people that they wanted to protect is now attacking the main people, the Jews, which are, which is the whole source of their guilt, right? Their guilt comes from the fact that they were racist against the Jews. So now you have one group of people being bigoted towards another group of people. So what are you gonna be like? When it came to raping women in the streets and children, you can keep hiding that and be like, we're just doing this for the greater good because we don't want people, because we don't want racism to, or bigotry to become a big deal in Germany. So these news, it's better if it doesn't get attention, which is, I don't know, scary for that they think like that. But now, what are you going to do now, Germany? Like, because these are now your other precious group of people that you're supposed to have not bigotry against, right? So are you going to be consistent with your values? How are you going to put this under the rug, right? And if you're not going to put it under the rug, are you going to go actually actively out there and call out Islamic anti-Semitism as what it is? Are you going to actually point that out, or are you just going to, because you can't, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't, because if you ignore it, if you're worried about being considered doing something that is bigotry, now by ignoring this, you are definitely going to be labeled as committing bigotry. So so this is going to be this is going to be interesting. It's good, and it's a good thing, it's a good thing that it's coming from a Muslim leader, because then they can't even have that excuse that, oh, this is not happening. This is some just far right group people just making an issue out of something that is not an issue. When did these people care about the Jews, right? And if it was actually a Jewish person, a lot of these Jewish conspiracy people would have a problem with that, right? The fact that there's a Muslim leader saying this is like, okay, Germany, how are you gonna do your move now, right? Like, how are you gonna deal with this, right? How are you gonna? Are you gonna say this guy is a bigot, I mean, they do sometimes, they had Majid, but it's gonna be amazing. And some people might say like, hey, Armin, look, this is a Muslim leader that is saying that anti-Semitism is a sin, right? So how come you're saying reform can happen? And I always say, I never said Muslims can't reform. I always said Islam can't reform, right? Islam as an ideology is the Quran, and the Quran is a book of hate. Muslims are better than Islam. Muslims rise above Islam because the ideologies that are influencing Muslims is not just Islam. You can't reduce Muslims to just Muslims. Muslims are influenced by many different ideologies, and mostly better ideologies than Islam. The influence on Islam's on their behavior cannot be the only thing. There must, if you're in Europe and other places, enlightenment values are also having a major influence on you. So Muslims do rise above Islam, and Muslims can reform. It's Islam that can't reform.
Right.
Okay, anything that we need to read?
Steve Beach says Jews being attacked in Germany seems refugees are bringing violent anti-Semitism with them. Yeah, it's we discussed there. Nothing on Facebook, nothing in the group.
Chris is pointing out it's only a sin if you believe in sin. Yeah, I wish that this guy, this is another problem with being a Muslim leader and addressing this, because the argument should be that it's against the laws of this country, right? So this is the standard that you have. Being a sin, I mean, masturbation is also a sin. Sin is just not, are you going to, sin is meaningless, right? So, but so this Muslim leader, is he pushing the government? Like, is he doing something about it, or just talking?
He's just talking. Well, I mean, like, doing something in the sense that he is setting up those programs, like I said, to introduce the refugees to Jewish community people, which I think is good. But
there should be people that come and actually use German laws against the Quran. And there should be a crowdfunding thread like these. This is kind of similar to what the Satanic Temple is doing against Christianity, right? When you make it legal to have these things, then we're going to use their own laws against Christianity. So if you're making offensive content, not covered by free speech, then basically what you have to do is use the same arguments, use the same weapon that they handed out to the far left. You should take that weapon and basically use that against them. You have to take that weapon and just go and use it against Islam. And once you're done with Islam, then point it at Christianity. Should we go to the next one?
Sure. Our next one is kind of a continuation from something we reported a few weeks ago about the new generation, Z being the first post-Christian generation. Well, a new Pew survey is showing that it's not just the new generation, but it's also young adults who are turning towards atheism and getting away from Christianity or general beliefs in God. So really, this is absolutely very interesting information. Only 80% of Americans now believe in God, but only 56% of Americans agree that God is like the one described in the Bible. So that's huge.
Yeah. So this is specifically U.S., by the way.
Specifically U.S., yeah. Okay. So the U.S. is a huge Christian country. And I remember a couple of years ago it being reported that like 90 or it was a much larger percentage of people who believed in God, and that number is decreasing drastically. And when we look at the ages of people between 18 and 29, we're showing that people who consider themselves atheists have grown to 16%, which is very high. And then we've got Generation Z coming in after them that it's even going to be a higher percentage than that. So in that same age group of 18 to 29, only 43% believe in God as described in the Bible, which is followed by people who believe in a higher power at 39%. So the same people, it's almost the same statistic for people who believe in like a higher power, such as karma or something like that, as people who believe in God as described in the Bible. So this is just huge for Americans.
Any statistics on whether there's ex-Christians or ex-Muslims, what religions? Like there was a recent study also came out that showed a lot of Muslims in the U.S. are leaving Islam. Muslims in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, this just focused on God in general.
Right. So this is interesting.
But and people are still kind of confused about the terms atheist and agnostic, and they don't understand that if you are agnostic and you don't believe in God, then you're an atheist. You're an agnostic atheist. But so there was another statistic in here, kind of pointing out the differences of beliefs in atheist agnostics and people who claimed nothing in particular. Somehow. 18% of atheists that they believed in a higher power or a spiritual force, which a lot of people get confused by that. They're like, how can you be an atheist and still believe in a higher power or a spiritual force? Well, if you just don't believe in God, you're an atheist. You can still believe in karma. You can still believe in other things that are...
Yeah, you're still wrong.
That I still can't... Right. Yeah. I still can't understand how you can properly use logic in one place and not in the other. Yeah. But that doesn't make you not an atheist.
I can actually, because just because you got the... honestly, getting the question whether there's a God or not, and thinking that I don't believe, if there's no evidence, I can't believe in it. A lot of people think like, oh, you're atheists are smart. This was a very simple concept. Come on, guys. Like, I don't think we need to. What I would congratulate people on is if they're in people that are in brainwashed communities and there's no exposure, and they still go out and reach for other ideas and they break out of their bubble. That's I admire that. But come on, no evidence, no belief, very easy. And the fact that you got that right doesn't really suggest that you're getting other answers to other questions in life, right? Like there's a whole bunch of
Right.
atheists that believe in really weird shit, right? Um, I mean, and a lot of atheists, their line of reasoning too, having not believing in God, wasn't even a proper one. I think a lot of them are like, "Oh, I'm tired of this bullshit. This is like it's mostly not mostly. I mean, a lot of it is emotional. They just, which is fine, by the way. I mean, I would rather. The thing is that my expectation of people is very low when it comes to logic, and that's okay. And not everybody is intelligent. A lot of people have an emotional reason for why they're atheist. Some people have logical reasons, and most of the people that have emotional reasons, I expect my expectations for them on getting other answers to other things right is low, right?
Right.
But the thing is that a lot of people are like, oh, if you're an atheist that is not logical, then you don't belong in our community. And I think that's bullshit, because I mean, even if you think that some atheists, there are many atheists that are not very intelligent or not very smart, and that's fine. I think they still deserve protection, because they shouldn't be discriminated against. For the fact that they don't believe in God. This is what the atheist community is supposed to do, right? So you have different movements here, and I think this is the main difference between the humanist movement, the skeptic movement, and the atheist movement. The skeptic movement is a movement that I like very much, which encourages people to be skeptical about everything. The atheist movement, in my view, is mostly focused on providing a community for atheists, whether they're skeptical or not, because you think that whatever your path to atheism is, you're not supposed to be demonized, you're not supposed to be discriminated against, you're not supposed to feel alone because you're an atheist, even if you came to your atheism not through skepticism or through a logical way, right? But I do think that this growth in atheism is encouraging. I think it does suggest that exposure to other ideas. I mean, I wish that we had a more global. I do think that in the next 5 years, the main ideas that are going to be in competition with each other is going to be secularism, Islam, ethno-nationalism. What was the fourth one? There was a fourth one. I think, I don't know. I forgot the fourth one. Let's just say 3. Maybe the fourth one was not very important. All right, there's 3 forces. The main religious ones are going to, based on religion, one is going to be secularism. Oh, I know why it's 3 now, because I mixed 2 of them together. I was saying the alt-right nationalism is one form, and then I was also going to say like Hindu nationalism was another one, right? But I just mixed 3 and 4 together, and I said ethno-nationalism, and sometimes ethno-nationalism manifests itself in the form of religious ethno-nationalism, kind of like Zoroastrianism in Iran or Hinduism in India. So that's why it went from 4 to 3. So I think Christianity is going to become, I might be wrong, but I think it's going to become very much more, less and less influential at a world stage. People like I think Jordan Peterson are making that death a little bit slower, unfortunately. But I do think that it's going to become very irrelevant, hopefully, in the next 5 or 10 years. It's going to
made a
go
sorry.
on. No, go on.
Moose made a comment. You asked earlier what the projection was between Muslims leaving faith. She posted that it was. Oh, I'm not sure if that was by the Pew Research Center. New estimates show that the U.S. Muslim population continues to grow.
Because they have so many
by 2050.
Muslim population is growing, right?
In the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the U.S. It's projected to grow a lot by 2050, almost twice double by 2050.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Even atheism is growing, but Islam is also growing. Christianity,
Right.
it might be, even if it's a lot of people. I'm suspecting a lot of people are going to be Christian by culture, but not by belief. In the next 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So that's going to make it basically very it's just going to be a background noise. But Islam is globally is taking over. It's going backwards in Turkey.
It's a force.
It's a force. It's going backwards in Malaysia. It's going backwards a little bit. I think in Indonesia there were some disagreements on that, but in Egypt, so it's kind of scary. But that's why I think that in opposition to that, all secular or atheist activists are going to be the main people that are holding the ground, because there's two forces against this, which is the ethno-nationalist people are going to be also against Islam, and because Islam is going to become more and more powerful, a lot of people might, and if the secular movements don't become, don't grow and don't become more influential, a lot of people are going to flock to the ethno-nationalist camp for protection against Islam, right? And that's why, this is why I'm thinking that we need to get our shit together, or else Islam is going to its reaction to it is also going to be devastating, which is the rise of ethno-nationalism. But let's go. Let me see if there's anything here. Yeah, Paul is saying just need to wean them off the higher power shit. Yeah, the higher power shit is bullshit as well. Anything else we need to read?
Not on Facebook.
Okay. Okay, what's the next one?
All right, next one. So protesters took to the street of Hollywood on the 103rd anniversary of the Armenian genocide.
Oh, wow.
Turkey and the United States won't recognize the Holocaust that took place around the time of World War I, where Turkey killed between 1.2 and 1.5 million Armenians, and there were concentration camps, right. And they did vile, terrible, horrifying things to a group of people, but Turkey and other countries such as the U.S. won't recognize it as genocide. So every year, it looks like on the anniversary, and in California they have the biggest Armenian.
Wait, the United States doesn't recognize it as genocide?
No, none of our presidents ever have. President Obama said that he was going to do it, but then didn't. By the end of his term.
See, this is so double standard. Imagine if nobody recognized the Holocaust, right? This would be like the fucking national news, right? If international news, if somebody some American leader denied the Holocaust, right? But this one, how many people
understand why?
Because of Turkey, because Turkey is very sensitive about this, right? They don't want this to be recognized because it was Turkey has like a Holocaust, their own version of Holocaust denial, which is this never happened. Apparently, how many people died?
Yeah.
In this?
Between 1.2 and 1.5 million.
Fuck. And this was in World War One, around World War One, right? And nobody, and it's denying. There, people are denying history. But yeah, people should be called out for their hypocrisy. But sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to say something?
I don't remember what I was going to say. I'm just that's mainly the story here is that every year they get together and they protest. I don't understand how is this possible with, if anyone right now, whenever you get the chance, I know people can't if they're listening to this through a podcast, but research this. Look at what happened to these people in detail, and how anyone can look at history and just say, no, that wasn't genocide, that wasn't a Holocaust in of itself, when, like I said, after they tormented people, marching them through deserts without food, without water, raping them, just torturing them along the way, the few who survived, they made concentration camps for, which they they continued to do terrible, disgusting things to these people. And how, I am disgusted that I live in a country that hasn't acknowledged this.
Right. I mean, Beach is pointing out in the live chat that Canada recognized it. So that's my country. There you go.
29 countries have recognized.
Right. And Beach is also pointing out that Beach is saying Turkey even crucified people. It was horrid.
Oh, yeah. That was horrid.
And so here's the thing, though. If this was the action of just the people that at that time, nobody should be shamed for it today. But this is not the same thing. These are people that are saying this never happened, right? That's different.
Right.
There's a difference between demanding people to apologize for something that they didn't do, then I can recognize that it happened. Yeah, you don't have to apologize for it, but the fact that you're not recognizing it as part of history. Now it's beyond just other people in history committing something wrong. Now you're doing something, so you do have to apologize now, right? Because now you did bring something wrong into the present that you're doing. Because a lot of people might react to this and say, Armin, why are you having a double standard? You're saying that white people shouldn't be apologizing for slavery, or Arabs today shouldn't be apologizing for the conquering that they did. There's a difference between saying that they shouldn't apologize for it and saying that they shouldn't recognize this as part of history. Obviously, we should recognize all of this as part of history, and we should study it, and we should teach it, and we should try to find ways not to let it ever happen again. Figure out how it happened, why it happened, it should be studied. All of these should be studied. You should never deny history.
Right.
That's not this. When I say people today shouldn't apologize for the crimes of the past, that's not at all suggesting that you should forget about the crimes of the past. They need to admit that it happened. And Beach is saying, yeah, exactly. They need to admit that it happened. Any comments on Facebook? By the way, on the Facebook post that we made, somebody posted a picture of the crowd, I think, that showed up. And Raphael, and it looks like there are a lot of, actually, where is this? Is this in? This looks like, where was this protest happen? Where was this done?
It was on Hollywood Boulevard, in LA.
And
in the mid-city area in LA as well.
If this picture is of that protest that happened, then there's tons of people. Do you know how many people showed up?
Oh yeah. No, did they say this time how many people showed up? I mean, it is the biggest, it's the biggest area where most Armenian Americans and,
this crowd is insane. And
200,000 people.
Wow. Okay. And Raphael.
Well, I'm not saying 200,000 people showed up there though, but there are 200,000 Armenian people of Armenian descent that live there.
Right.
So yeah, I think that they did have a huge crowd of people because every year this is what they do, demanding people not forget what happened, demanding people formally acknowledge what happened to their people.
Right, and Raphael, with that picture that he posted, with the by the way, I can't verify if this is a picture of the protest, but let me see. But I think it is, and he's saying that we don't simply call, we take actions inside and out. We start from ourselves. We are on the verge of finalizing our velvet nonviolent revolution. Okay, that sounds pretty epic. I don't know what's...
Doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Oh, we had somebody comment saying, I'm a descendant of a survivor of the Armenian genocide.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And Sang in the live chat, YouTube live chat, is saying Turkey needs to learn from Germany how they handled their collective shame. Well, I wouldn't. I think Germany went overboard with that. I think I don't think you should be shamed. You shouldn't shame people for doing something that they didn't do. Collective blaming and shaming, I don't agree with that. I think you should just recognize that this is something that happened. I think you should acknowledge that this is something that happened. I don't think anybody should ever be ashamed. You should say like, yeah, this happened. This was horrific. How did this happen? How did my country let this happen? How can we make sure it doesn't happen again? But I don't think if you did not kill anybody, if you did not have any slaves, if you did not take part in conquering cities, I don't think you should also take part in feeling ashamed. That's my
right.
Yeah,
I do agree with that as well.
Yeah, but if you actually do deny history, then you should be ashamed. Yeah. So should I go to the next story?
Yeah, let's go to the next story. Okay. For anyone who doesn't know who Pastor Shane Idleman is, he is a pastor of Westside Christian Fellowship in California. You might have seen a few of his videos rolling around Facebook. He loves to be in front of a camera, and he's kind of a hate monger. So now he's taken to his pulpit to say that people are trying to silence him and his people and their beliefs. And the kind of joke here is, says the pastor whose rant was silenced by nobody. But yeah, he goes up there every week and he screams about the LGBT community, gays and guns and all these issues that he likes. And he says that they're being silenced by not just atheists, but by the government, which is crazy because our president has his own evangelical people following him around, giving him what to do. But he says that the voice of the nation shouldn't come from Fox News or CNN, but that Americans need to look to the Bible for answers about immigration, gun control, gay marriage, and other issues. That nobody is going to silence him at his pulpit. And it's just wow, like it's wow. But the problem with this is he's spreading a whole bunch of right-wing propaganda, right? And people are starting to look at him as like a good voice for Christians. And yeah, like this was even picked up by Charisma, which is a popular Christian publication, and they're actually promoting his rant, saying, yes, everyone needs to listen to this. But the problem is that his rant is just wrong. How can you sit there and say that Christian voices in America are being silenced? Who's silencing Christian voices in America?
I think there's too much. I think they have a monopoly, somewhat of a monopoly over their voice in America. I mean, what the fuck?
Absolutely. We're having to fight them to keep from overstepping into our laws.
Right.
And they're crying about being silenced when they have the right to say anything they want. They whisper in our president's ear. And I mean, who is silencing these people? I don't understand why so many Christians in this country, especially pastors and people that have a huge soapbox to scream from, they want to say that they're being silenced. Bill O'Reilly did it all the time. They create these issues like the war on Christmas. Which atheist is fighting Christmas? Which one of us? Where's the war? They create these problems, and this pastor is very popular for doing that. He likes to get up there and say that there's a problem with the LGBT community. He loves the LGBT community, but he has a problem with gay marriage, and he has a problem with this, he has a problem with that. And then he turns around and he wants to cry about people who take offense to what he had to say, and they say something about it.
Is there understanding of free speech is I get to say something and you don't get to react? Is that the standard that they have for what
that is the standard that they have for free speech? Okay. Absolutely. They don't understand that free speech, you can say anything the fuck you want, but there will be consequences for it. Right. People are allowed to respond to you, but this guy, no, he doesn't want anyone responding to him.
So the free speech that they're advocating for is I say something and you shut the fuck up, right? That's the standard for the free. Okay, you don't get
because if you say anything else, he's a victim. You are silencing him. He's oppressed.
Right. So basically, it's a contradiction. What they think free speech is actually a contradiction of what free speech is, because that means like we shouldn't respond. We should be silent. But I mean, do you think that these people secretly want to be oppressed? Like, why are people not oppressing us so we could be the victims? Like, why?
I mean, if you get to go up there and try to be a victim, right? You're going to have more people feeling sympathy for you. I do. I think that these people have to look, like I said, with Bill O'Reilly and his war on Christmas bullshit that he pushed for so many years. And when people would ask, where's the war? Who is fighting it? What? Because someone might say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas? Like, shut up. That's not a war. Okay? Yeah. No one is stopping you from saying Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But and you know, if they actually did care about oppression against Christians, they would talk more about Egyptian Christians, right? They would talk more about Christians in Iran, Saudi Arabia, Christians in China, right?
Right.
But no, they don't even care about discrimination and oppression against Christians. They want themselves, their groups, you know, American Christians to be oppressed.
I mean, if they wanted to, they could look to Pakistan. Okay, they could look to Pakistan and see how Christians are treated in Pakistan. If they cared about true oppression, they should all be screaming mad about how Christians are treated in Pakistan. But no, you're absolutely right, Armin, because it's not about Christians actually being oppressed. It's about how I can look like a victim so that people will hear me.
Right.
People will pity me. It is maddening.
Yeah. Imagine if we had, which president in their eyes wasn't a Christian? Like, look at the Congress, right, in the United States. Look at the Senate. Look at the line of presidents. Like, you have the vast majority of them are Christians, right? I mean, it's
all of them.
Not all of them.
Catholic. I didn't know JFK was Catholic.
I mean, we do have some Muslims and some secret atheists, but most of them are Christians, right? Like, if we were reacting to if Americans were non-Christians, Americans were reacting a fraction of what they're reacting to, they should all be up in arms about, like, why is my government too Christian, right? Why, why is everything here, like, there's too much Christianity forced down on Americans that are not Christian. They would have a case. Right. They would actually have a case if anything. But guess what? As soon as you have your first gay president, or atheist president, or Muslim president, or Hindu president, these people are going to be like, there you go, it's the end of Christianity. We're fucked. They're oppressing us. Even though we weren't making the same argument, we weren't getting that argument against them when the president was a Christian, right? But I don't know. I mean, they don't see the hypocrisy, and I think they do wish they do wish. This is why they're actively looking. They're actively looking for ways to be offended, and when they see an opportunity, when they see something, I do think that some of these people, if they actually see a news of real oppression against Christian in the United States, they're going to light up. The first thought in their head is, oh joy, now, instead of actually caring about the Christian that got oppressed, right, it's like, this is the rallying cry that we needed, right? As they're going to see it as an opportunity rather than something to actually be upset about. I'm actually not sure. I'm if that's the case, but I'm just making a guess that I'm hoping that's not the case. Suraya. I'm gonna say Suraya. Is that right? Suraya.
Yeah, that's right.
In case someone is derogatory, someone is derogatory, makes, I think you meant to say makes statements by his right to free speech, and you get offended. you have right to sue them. Do you in the U.S. just for being offended? But responding with
No,
violence
not
is
just
not.
for being a.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. If we still do have blasphemy laws, right? So
Right.
if you do something offensive,
Well,
yeah, you can
nobody
actually
is
be sued.
enforcing those, right? Though, right?
Yeah, no, they are. In Pennsylvania, just was it 2 years ago?
Oh,
A teenager got arrested. Not, yeah, he was arrested and then charged and found guilty of committing an offense because he humped Jesus's face. So
oh,
he had to serve like community service and all that stuff. Yeah, they're still here. They're
right.
still alive.
But here's the thing: a lot of people, a lot of free speech advocates, like sometimes miss the point here. Sometimes people say that you shouldn't be, if free speech means that you shouldn't be offended. No, people should be able to get offended if they want to be offended. The line that we have for people is not that, hey, I'm gonna say something, and don't be offended. Be offended. Of course, you can be offended. I mean, you can't help but not be offended if you find something offensive. The line is that you being offended shouldn't mean that I don't get to say it. But
Right.
I do think some people are taking this too far, are missing the point in the free speech advocates, and are saying that you shouldn't. That I say things and you shouldn't be offended. No, no, no.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying at all. The line is that go be offended on your own, or you can even say that you're offended, right? Even if you want to, the line shouldn't even be that. Oh, don't say that you're offended, because sometimes you might say like, I do think you could make a request like, hey, this is offensive, please don't say it, right? The line is the expectation for us for somebody to be silent, because sometimes you might say something offensive that you think it serves no purpose, but you it's just a joke, and if you think that somebody's being offended, maybe you don't want to say it because you think like, oh, okay, it's not achieving something and it's hurting some people, so I'm glad they told me it's offensive, so I don't want to say it anymore. So people that are getting offended, they should go as far as even giving voice to the fact that they're offended. That's not even the line. The line is, once you mention that you're offended, then the expectation or the demand for the source of the offense to come down, that's the line that we're not crossing, right?
Right.
But let me see.
But there was a second part to that question. He wants to know if responding with violence. He says responding with violence is not good. What do you say?
Of course. Well, yeah. I mean that's it goes.
I mean, yeah, never.
Yeah, we're not advocating for violence, again, unless it's against, unless it's in self-defense, obviously, right?
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
don't even think that's that seems obvious.
I don't find that to be. I don't think I wouldn't call self-defense violence even. I don't know.
I
But
mean, if you're causing harm,
yeah.
if you're causing physical harm to somebody, it's violence, and if it's in self-defense, I think it's justified.
Yeah.
Mark is saying I kind of lies. Okay, so Mark is actually think that he's against free speech because he thinks too many lies are protected as free speech. Okay, that's bullshit, and I'm not gonna get started on that. We could have an entire episode on that. But let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next news.
Next news. This is really sad. A Christian woman was set on fire for refusing a marriage
Oh
proposal,
fuck!
and
Oh
she ended up dying in Lahore. Yeah. So we
oh.
were actually just talking about the way Christians are treated, but this poor young lady refused this guy's marriage proposal. He was a Muslim. She was a Christian. She said because they were of different faiths, she didn't think it was going to work out. So he went to their house late at night. He knocked on the door. Ozma, the young lady, opened the door, and Gujar, the Muslim man who wanted to marry her, was standing outside of the house and threw acid on her face. Then he threw kerosene oil on her and set her on fire. So he got away. The father and the family members tried to catch him, but he managed to escape. She was rushed to a local hospital where the doctor said they couldn't really do much. They had to get her to Lahore for better treatment. and she only survived a couple days before succumbing to her injuries. But the good news of all this is, I guess, Gajar, the man who did this to her, was found and apprehended by the police.
God, these are the pictures. These are her parents holding her picture.
Those are her parents. Yeah, they're the ones that went to the police to get this guy arrested.
Imagine the last memories of your daughter being her in such a pain. What a way to go. What a fucking way to go.
It's terrible. And they said in the news article that attacks on women over marriage refusals are perceived as dishonor. So this isn't uncommon in Pakistan.
Oh my God, I don't even know if I have any comments
really
on this.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't have any comments on this. This is too horrific.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And she didn't even die right away. She had to experience the pain for so long before she had to go.
I know.
Was this guy, did he, never mind. I don't know what to even ask. Anyways, I don't know. This is sad news. This is pure evil. I have nothing to say.
That it is.
I don't even. Yeah. Anyways, let's go to the next one. I'm depressed right now. All right, go.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Amazon supported an anti-child rape Hindu actress, then got attacked by Hindus over it. So this. You guys remember we reported about Aasifa Bono, the young Muslim girl who was raped, beaten, and tortured in the temple.
Wait,
there's an actress.
So wait, let's get more background. So last week we discussed this news that there was this Muslim girl. How old was she?
She was 8 years old.
8 years old. And she was kidnapped and taken to a Hindu temple, and she was raped by how many Hindu men?
I want to say 8. That story has changed from article to article.
So around 8?
Around 8, yeah.
Around 8 men shared her with 8 Hindu men shared her with each other for how many days?
3 days.
For 3 days, and then how did they kill her?
They ended up strangling her and hitting her in the head with a rock.
Okay.
And when they found her body, like her legs were broken. I mean, she was tortured.
Right. And then once they found the people that did this, there's a lot of Hindu nationalists that try to protect these people, right? They even They even barred a whole bunch of people for the lawyers from trying to taking this to the court, right?
They even barred her parents from burying her in the cemetery with their family. They had to march 7 miles to bury their daughter.
Right, and
these Hindu nationalists just were terrible.
And Modi, he didn't even respond to this for a while, and then when he did respond, the response was weak. I think a lot of people thought they think that there's a double standard here for Hindus, especially when it comes against a Muslim girl, 8-year-old Muslim girl. That's why a lot of Hindus want to protect these Hindus, apparently, this is the fucked up situation that we're in right now. And now what you're talking about is that there's some people that are this girl's not alone. There's a whole bunch of people that are in India are saying this is fucking bullshit and are trying to show solidarity with the parents of the girl, right? And one of these people is this, I think it's a famous Bollywood Hindu.
She's a Bollywood actress.
It's a Hindu actress. She's an anti-child rape activist, and she's speaking out against this. I think she's holding a sign. What does the sign say? Let me see. If I could bring up the sign. So she posted this sign on Instagram, on Twitter, and on her Facebook, I think, as well. And it's saying, I am Hindustan, I am ashamed, justice for Aasifa. That's her name, the girl, right? The 8-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Wait, and she's under it's hashtag justice for Aasifa, 8-year-old gang raped, murdered in Devi Devistan Temple. Hashtag Kethua. So she's saying, I am ashamed. But this got a huge reaction from Hindus, right? From
Right.
Yeah. So what was the reaction that this got?
Huge reaction. They called her anti-Hindu. They called her anti-national. They accused her of abusing Hindus by holding this sign. There was so much rage over this tweet that it just brought her a lot of hatred, a lot of attention over this. But Amazon had hired her over something completely different. Amazon India, right? And they retweeted a simple little tweet of hers that had nothing to do with this. It had to do with their hullabaloo. No, I'm sorry. Let's see. Where does it say? An endorsement post for Amazon. Yeah. So she posted a promotional campaign. It endorsed Amazon. It had nothing to do with the case little girl. The company retweeted it, right? Amazon India retweeted it. Well, Hindu protesters took to social media to organize a boycott against Amazon for the fact that they were supporting her. They were behind her. And now all of a sudden accusing Amazon of all this stuff, trying to make sure nobody buys anything from Amazon India. So Amazon India actually went back and unretweeted her.
What?
Yep.
I thought Amazon would be like, fuck you. Not only we're going to retweet, not only is going to support her, we're going to support her campaign.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
They deleted their retweet of her. They deleted it.
What the fuck, Amazon? Oh my God, this is ridiculous. There needs to be a public, Amazon should be called out, because this is when big organizations could actually be a force for positive force. You could be like, no, we're against child rape. Of course, we're going to support this woman and her campaign. In fact, we decided to start a campaign supporting her. And they go ahead and undo the retweet. Okay, that's ridiculous. Shame. BJ. By the way, Soraya in the live chat, he mentioned that he's from India, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. He retweeted this tweet, and he's also pointing out that the temple that she was raped in, that's mentioned in this picture, is the Devistan is a temple of a female god. And the thing that I get from a lot of Hindus, that when I criticize Hinduism, is that they have Hindu gods, and that makes them a feminist, apparently, religion, pro-female religion. And a lot of people usually point out the hypocrisy of many Hindus that are, because rape and abuse against women is a huge problem in India, and whenever you point that out, a lot of Hindus in India try to defend that by pointing out to other countries where they also have problems, as if that's an excuse, right? They basically classic whataboutism. But they always, but this is so fucking weird, because they raped her in a temple for a female god. Is that correct, Soraya? Because that is the same excuse that they have, that they're not anti-woman, in that temple, in the Hindu temple. That's where they hold her for 3 days, and they shared this little 8-year-old girl among 3 men before they killed her. This is fucking.
And a minor, by the way, 15-year-old. But yeah.
What? Oh, one of the rapists.
There was a 15-year-old that was involved in her rape.
Oh yeah, there was a 15-year-old boy that was also raping her. One of the 8 men, right?
My God!
I can't. There's so many fucked up shit goes through my. Like, I can't even imagine those 3 days that this girl was there. Holy shit!
Yeah.
These people are monsters. BG is saying shame on Amazon. Shame was the most searched keyword in India. Okay. That's, wow. Okay. this is so extreme. And there was another person saying up there, I forgot who mentioned it because the chat went up, is saying Hindu nationalism in India is out of control. And yes, Raya is mentioning, yes, he's confirming it. And
Soraya is also saying the mastermind was a Brahmin priest and his sons were involved. Oh my goodness.
Fucking disgusting, honestly. I want this is anybody ever that says Hinduism is a way of life, not a religion, they should from now just shut the fuck up. Okay, just shut the fuck up.
Right.
Okay, yep. This is the way. Okay, this is the way of life. Okay, you know, I can't. The amount of the thing. Here's the thing. People always say that humans are evil no matter what, with or without religion. The problem with religion is not that it comes and sometimes it does, but often what religion does is not that it doesn't come and makes people evil. Sometimes it does, but most of the time what the role of religion is to provide protection and a shield for that evil, right? And when people point to the fact that the source of the evil was something else, like the source of the evil was greed, the source of the evil was lust, the source of the evil was jealousy, the source of the evil was something else, they usually use that argument as an excuse for the religion. But that's not what these desires that people have, that's not what religion reinforces. Those desires that people go and try to satisfy in extreme ways, that's the source of that is not religion. What religion does is religion gives you excuses both from your own personal moral compass, because you justify it using a religion, and from society at large, because when it becomes so powerful in the society, then it protects you from anyone accusing you against the actions you take. So both personally, you thinking that maybe I shouldn't do this because there's something wrong, it provides you protection against that, and both society coming down on you, if that branch of religion is powerful in that society, it provides you protection against that as well. And that's usually where religion comes in. Not to say that sometimes it doesn't make people actually become evil, because it gives you other goals that are completely not in your own best interest, because it introduces a whole bunch of other elements for you to go after. But usually it's not that. Usually it provides you protection against yourself and society. Beach is asking if this. Oh yeah, going back to the actress. What's the actress's name again?
Her name is Swara Basker. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
So maybe people go follow her, go support her. Maybe use this hashtag that she used. Give her more followers so that she gets a louder voice because of this. Swara Basker. What I'm gonna do, Basker. Maybe I should. What I'm gonna do is like find the tweet to this, and put the tweet to this in the description. So if people want to go out and support her, they can. Whenever people try to silence somebody, or try to intimidate somebody, it needs to backfire. So those tactics don't work, right? Moose is saying, "What can we do in the West when we read stories like this?" Well, that's exactly what I just this breaks my heart about the 8-year-old girl. Yeah. What I mentioned, just go and share these stories. Whoever in India, not just this story, also this the story before this as well, about that woman that was burned alive. You know what you can do is go see who over there is bringing attention to this, and go support those people. So, for example, this actress took this step to she shouldn't see negative consequence. The positive consequences to her voice getting louder because of this should outweigh the negative consequences from Amazon pulling back, or other people might not do contracts with her. I don't know what's going to happen to her, but we need to make sure we change the balance so people see that when they talk about these things, they're going to get a louder voice. So I think that's where people that are not in these areas, that what you can do is go follow them, retweet them, support them, give them a louder voice. By following them, by sharing them, you're making their voice louder. And you could do this from anywhere in the world. The fact that you're not in India doesn't make becomes irrelevant, because you are able to do that. So Swara is saying at really Swara is her Twitter account, and that's at REALLYSWARA. Anyways, that was our last news. Thank you. By the way, I'm really happy that we had Suraya here. Sorry for butchering your name every time, but you really helped us out with some of the info. Beej also has a lot of info for us. It really helps us out here with the live chat. Basically makes this show much better, because sometimes we don't know things and people in the live chat complete the information. So really appreciate you guys that you guys are part of the show. Moose saying, I agree with your fabulous points. Oh, thank you. However, we can expose all the bad things in America too. Yeah, of course we can. The thing is, our government doesn't do anything to change. I mean, not every single one of us can't force change, but together we can. Okay, together, you have to understand. The more you share something, whether it's in your country or other countries, the fact is that those views, those shares, they do get noticed. And a lot of once smaller people like us share these, because it becomes a little bit more trendy, bigger news organizations will cover it even more, because they're paying attention. Okay, when bigger news organizations share it, when more people are sharing this on Facebook and Twitter, it will influence how people vote. It does influence which nonprofits get more funding, who people go out and support. It will never be perfect, but it will have an influence, right? When you have a country as like Saudi Arabia, which where people think that it doesn't even care about human rights at all, right? Which is true. When they stopped Raif's torture, when beating, because of the international pressure, but they didn't want to mention that it was because of international pressure. They wanted to mention that it was because he was in poor health. It shows that these shares and it has an influence. When in Iran there was a campaign, for example, for somebody not to get executed, right? Someone's hanging, for example, was delayed or stopped or re-looked at because of so many shares, so many people looking at it. Even the worst of governments, they need their image. They need to have this, because their image is part of their weapon. Okay, people have not having support, people losing support for something. Why do you think that these governments want to stop the media talking about these things? Why do you think why do you think Hindu nationalists are so angry with this actress, that she's posting these tweets? Because they know that this will hurt their cause. They know that this will hurt their branding, their image. And the fact that they know this, it means that these things work, right? And the fact that they do work, you could point to the fact that it's not going to change things completely, but the fact that it has some influence, it means that each one of us could have a little bit of an influence. And together, our influence could be meaningful. Yeah, it might not be meaningful, but it could also be meaningful. And it doesn't take much of our effort. It does, just retweeting things, sharing things, donating a little $1 a month to something. If you can't, just linking to things, posting it on your profile. It does, it does have an influence. Admus, hating each other, sort of. Okay, so there's an argument between each other in the live chat, so that's not on us. Moose is saying I kind of agree. All right, so should we just leave it there? And and also, Ali, did you remember to check the last week's comment section on
I
YouTube?
sure did.
Oh.
Yeah. So you guys, please, if you see some news that you want Armin and myself to cover or go into more depth with, please comment on the bottom of this episode, and I'll go through and I'll find those articles. So please definitely do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I should have a closing remark because this is awkward every time. Anyways, thank you guys. Thank you everybody in the live chat. Bobby, Moose.
Thanks everyone.
Shariah, Beach. Who did I miss? And thank you for our new patrons. If you want to support this show, please go ahead and support us on Patreon. Freelance was here. We should have read more of Freelance. I don't think there was anything directed at us. Sang, thank you. Harris. All of you guys are awesome. You guys make the show a lot better. And yeah, till next week. And go check out our new series, Atheist Republic Discussions. So now we have 3 series. And for the Atheist Republic voicemails, leave a voicemail if you guys want to have your voice heard on the podcast as well. Bobby is saying thank you, Armin. And guess it's Allie. Allie is our CEO. She's a main player. She's our boss. Yeah. Bobby saying sorry I missed your name. That's okay. Go follow her on Twitter as well. The link to her Twitter is going to be in the description. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to stop the streaming. Bye, everyone. Let me just... Yeah.